Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Whenever you're ready, you can start the class.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chande Radha Kala Chande Radhe. Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Balade Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo. Gaur Premanandi. Jai Niti Leela Parishtam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvatakacharya Sadir Sati Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Charger Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Niti Leela Parishtam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvatakacharya Sadir Sati Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananti Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadi Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Shri Sankirtan Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gaura Premanande, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. is this going to be the traditional format of class, or is it going to be the Krishna House format?
No, it can be traditional here. You
Huh?
do the way you like. So split height and height is good.
Yeah. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Bonachari. Yamuna Tira Bonachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yasodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tira Bonachari. Yamuna Tira Bonachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvatakarya Satyasati Shri Srimati Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Shri Rathiyate Yatra Ki Jai. Lord Premananda, glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today being Rath Yatra Day, I thought it would be appropriate to say something about Rath Yatra. My humble, meager attempts to say something which may or may not have any value to any of you, but hopefully some of it will. And so I thought we'll just start with a couple of verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita regarding Lord Chaitanya and Rath Yatra. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhattavrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhattavrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhattavrinda. So there's a couple of verses here. It's difficult to think which ones to read, but we'll read these. So, Lilaya Chandila Ishwara Ratera Upara Aradui Rate Kade Subhadra Haladhara. Translation: For the pastimes of the Rath Yatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath got aboard one car, and his sister Subhadra and elder brother Balaram got aboard 2 other cars. Panchadasa Dina Ishvara Mahalakshmi Lana Tandra Sange Kridda Kaila Nibrite Vashya. For 15 days, which was prior, for 15 days the Lord had remained in a secluded place with the Supreme Goddess of Fortune and had performed his pastimes with her. Purport: the 15-day period of Anavasara is also called Nibrita, in honor of the solitary place where the Supreme Goddess of Fortune lives. After living there for a fortnight, Lord Jagannath took permission from the Goddess of Fortune to leave. Tanhara samati lana bhakte sukadite rate chade barira haila vihara karite. Having taken permission from the Goddess of Fortune, the Lord came out to ride on the Rath cart and perform his pastimes for the pleasure of the devotees. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati comments that as an ideal husband, Lord Jagannath remained 15 days in a secluded place with his wife, the Supreme Goddess of Fortune. Nonetheless, the Lord wanted to come out of seclusion to give happiness to his devotees. The Lord enjoys himself in 2 ways, known as Swakiya and Parakiya. The Lord's conjugal love in the Swakiya rasa relates to the regulative principles observed in Dwarka, where the Lord has many married queens. But in Vrindavan, the conjugal love of the Lord is not with his married wives, but with his girlfriends, the gopis. Conjugal love with the gopis is called Parakiya rasa. Lord Jagannath leaves a secluded place where he enjoys the company of the Supreme Goddess of Fortune in Swakiya rasa, and he goes to Vrindavan where he enjoys Parakiya rasa. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore reminds us that the Lord's pleasure in Parakiya rasa is superior to his pleasure in the Swakiya rasa. In the material world, Parakiya rasa, or loving affairs with unmarried girls, is the most degraded relationship. But in the spiritual world, this type of loving affair is considered the supreme enjoyment. In the material world, everything is but a reflection of the spiritual world, and that reflection is perverted. We cannot understand the affairs of the spiritual world on the basis of our experience in the material world. The Lord's pastimes with the gopis are therefore misunderstood by mundane scholars and word wranglers. The parakya rasa of the spiritual world should not be discussed except by one who is very advanced in pure devotional service. The parakya rasa in the spiritual world and that in the material world are not comparable. The former is like gold, and the latter is like iron. Because the difference between the two is so great, they cannot actually be compared. However, just as a knowledgeable person can easily distinguish gold from iron, one who has the proper realization can easily distinguish the transcendental activities of the spiritual world from material activities. Om Agyanatmarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chuksun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So on this very auspicious occasion of Rath Yatra, is so important to the devotees, to those devotees who are serious in Krishna consciousness, to try to absorb this information. This is higher knowledge. And higher knowledge means knowledge which helps us to have access to the supreme knowledge of our supreme identity, our supreme relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Krishna consciousness is not about knowledge, it's about consciousness. And knowledge is the vehicle for attaining higher consciousness. So for a devotee, knowledge is acquiring knowledge, growing in knowledge, becoming submissive to higher knowledge is of utmost importance, but not for the knowledge in itself, not as an end of our purpose in life, but as a means to achieving higher consciousness. Krishna consciousness is about consciousness, that's why it's called Krishna consciousness. So this Rath Yatra is an opportunity for the most advanced devotees to experience this highest realm of revealed truth regarding Krishna's eternal position and our intimate relationship with him. And it is also, this is what makes Rath Yatra so completely unique, is that it is also designed for the immense benefit of the common masses. And it gives access to the common masses. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, is to give access to every living entity, not even just the human beings, but every living entity, to give access to this most sublime, superior information of our eternal relationship with God. And so we can be, and we want to be, very acutely aware as we are, excuse me, as we are participating in the Rath Yatra, bringing the Lord from his official residence, formal residence of Dwarka, in which the Lord is regarded and worshipped with all opulence, with all regalia, with all formality, to his most intimate home of Vrindavan. So this is Rath Yatra. Rath Yatra is the symbol of this journey of the Lord from the Svakiya rasa to the Parakiya rasa. And we want to be part of this Parakiya rasa, but we have to be very realistic where we are and how far we may need to go before achieving this, and to be very respectful of the teachings and the acharyas and their presentations and their warnings, and their suggestions, advice to us, how we can advance step by step in this process of transformation of consciousness. So initially we come to Krishna consciousness. Generally speaking, there are some very, very, very rare exceptions, but generally speaking, we come to Krishna consciousness with very little understanding of who is God. For myself, I will say that I had some sense that there's a higher purpose in life than simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That there's something more to life, and I wanted to know what that was. I remember some years before encountering devotees that I envisioned that somehow the truth is beyond a huge, this is my vision, my particular vision. There was this huge stone wall that was between myself and the absolute truth. I didn't know what that absolute truth was, whether it's personal or impersonal, whether it was what form it took or whatever. But I thought, let me begin to chip away. Let me begin to chip away at this wall. It will be an impossible task, but what else is there to do? I knew that on this side of the wall is all false. It's all foolishness, it's all temporary, and it's all useless. That somehow I knew. I didn't know what was on the other side, but I thought, let me begin to chip away. I'm still chipping. But at least now I have knowledge what's on the other side. This is the difference. So Srila Prabhupada has come to the Western world's Paschatya Desatadane to give this knowledge of what's on the other side, what is beyond this boundary, which is apparently so impenetrable. And yet, as Srila Prabhupada introduces Krishna consciousness, he says, it is very simple. It's a very easy process. What is the difficulty? Just chant Hare Krishna and surrender to the Guru, the instructions of the Guru, and the Guru will take you to the other side. We don't have to be chipping away. So when I say I'm still chipping away, that's this part of me that's still being stubborn and foolish, thinking that I'm doing something. There's something that I am doing that's going to get me to the other side. No. No, our business is to submit. And this whole process of purification, self-purification, is to bring us to the point of submission. We are wearing these kuntimala. This is our dog collar. And we want to be a well-trained, submissive dog of our spiritual master. And then the spiritual master takes charge, and we have no worries, no concerns. So if we can stay in that mood, then we have nothing to be worried about, and the path is very direct and very straightforward. So in this Rath Yatra, my first visit to the Hare Krishna temple was in San Francisco, 1966. And when I entered that space, the first object of my vision was this grand looming figures of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra in the Frederick Street temple in San Francisco. And not only were they just overwhelming in their presence, but the way they were situated very up high, Shamsundar Prabhu created a platform where they were very high, and at least this is my memory. And I wanted to bow down. I mean, what could I do in their presence just to bow down? And so this is how Srila Prabhupada gave so much importance. As soon as he saw the little figure of Jagannath that Malati brought from Cost Plus, that she had pocketed and brought to Srila Prabhupada, wondering, what is this little figure? And Srila Prabhupada, oh, it is Lord Jagannath. And Srila Prabhupada offered obeisances to Lord Jagannath. Srila Prabhupada understood that this is the Lord's plan, and he immediately called for Subhadra, Balaram and Subhadra. So she went back to Cost Plus, found the other barrels that were filled with these dolls. They were being sold as little toy dolls, and brought them. And then Srila Prabhupada gave these 3 little murtis to Shyam Sundar, and he says, carve them in a large size. And so this was the beginning of a tradition which has now become so important and will continue to grow until we have, as Srila Prabhupada wanted, Rath Yatras all over the world. All over the world. Thousands of Rath Yatras. Thousands. So right now, I think, as far as I know, there are 5 of us in North America with chariots that are doing Rath Yatras, bringing the chariots to various places, Rath Yatra. And each of us, I think, has an average of 10 to 12 Rath Yatras per year. So that's a minimum of 50 Rath Yatras that we're doing in North America. And that's increasing because every year I get at least 1 or 2 phone calls from temples that have never had a Rath Yatra, or even communities, not always temples, but communities that have never had a Rath Yatra, asking if on this particular date the Rath Yatra is available, and if it's not, they'll look for another date. So this is increasing. And I hope that Ratnabhushan Prabhu, who makes many of the Rath Yatras for America, there are a couple of other devotees who also do this. Abhicharan Prabhu up in Montreal has made several Rath Yatras, and Dharmaraj Prabhu in Lachua has made the Rath Yatras that covers all of the more than 10, maybe 15 Rath Yatras just in Florida, and Akhilananda Prabhu in Ohio, and he and I more or less share maybe 20 or 25 Rath Yatras in the eastern part of the United States. Ratnabhushan Prabhu makes the Rath Yatras for the West Coast, and he does many of the Rath Yatras in the West, and he made the Rath Yatra which I brought from North Carolina. And that particular Rath Yatra, its very first inaugural Rath Yatra was in Dallas, Texas, 7 years ago, because it was made in California, and I'm in North Carolina, and so he delivered it to Dallas, because Dallas is the first Rath Yatra, one of the earliest Rath Yatras in the season, except for Florida, which has all of their Rath Yatras during the winter because of the weather. So Srila Prabhupada's wish is being fulfilled, and I think that Srila Prabhupada is very pleased to see that his desire for Rath Yatra is not only going on, being maintained, but it's being expanded. So this is a very, it's just a wonderful example of what Krishna consciousness really is. Krishna consciousness is a presentation to the highest, most esoteric truth in existence being made available to the common masses. This is the Lord Chaitanya's program. That everyone, he wanted everyone to come to the platform of spontaneous, loving, devotional service, Raga Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, that we practice so sincerely and so steadily under the guidance and the careful leadership of our superiors and the acharyas, that gradually we will come to that platform of spontaneous loving service. And Srila Prabhupada gave us all the necessary precautions so that we don't jump ahead and endanger our path to perfection by going beyond our capacity. So this is so important. And yet the absolute truth, the highest truth, is there for us at every moment. And that truth is being made available to everyone through Harinam Sankirtan, through book distribution, and through Rath Yatras. So it's the responsibility of the devotees whose lives are absorbed in this process of Krishna consciousness to share this perspective as much as possible with the common people when we go out on Rath Yatra, and people are naturally very curious. What's going on? Who are these figures? Who is this wonderful, amazing figure with such big eyes and a grand smile? Who is it? And why are we worshiping this figure? And what is this all about? We need to be there to explain, just as it was all explained to us. And somehow we became so inspired that we decided to give our entire lives to this process. So Srila Prabhupada had that potency, Srila Prabhupada being himself situated on that highest platform of spontaneous loving devotional service, had the capacity to come down to the masses and give us whatever it was that we needed, right from A, B, C, that we are not this material body. And Srila Prabhupada's constant emphasis in the early days and throughout his preaching, during the years of his preaching in the West, was the emphasis, right up towards the end, the emphasis that we are not these material bodies, that we are eternal spirit souls, that our purpose is to give everything and surrender to Krishna. So, sarvapadi vinir maktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. So we are all struggling in the material world to try to satisfy our senses, not knowing that this is it is a vain and useless struggle, because our senses will never be satisfied. Our senses are, the more we feed and satisfy the senses, the more our senses want to be fed and satisfied. There's no end. Lust, anger, and greed are embedded in the materially conditioned mind. And the more we try to satisfy those senses, the more we will become implicated. So this is Srila Prabhupada's teachings all throughout. But then, Rishikena Rishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Uchate, when we learn that the purpose of our mind, of our intelligence, of our body, of our senses, of our words, of our thoughts, of our deeds, of everything in our existence is for the satisfaction of the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When that is understood and we act in that capacity, and we transfer our efforts to serve our senses to efforts to serve the Lord's senses, then we get the paramdrishta, we get the taste, and we become satisfied. Finally, there's a sense of satisfaction, and there's nothing to compare. Just as you cannot compare the swakiya rasa with the parakiya rasa, there's no comparison between the parakiya rasa and the parakiya rasa of this material world, is what I meant. Because they're in different realms, and it's with different consciousness. And so our actions in Krishna consciousness are not even to be compared minutely with activities in the material world and in material consciousness. So as we're practicing this process, we are living in the spiritual world. We may not know it fully, we may not experience it fully, but as long as we are practicing under the shelter of the acharyas, under the shelter of the pure devotees, then the destination of our path is 100% guaranteed. All we have to do is remain. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would often preach, you remain where you are, you don't have to leave. There's an expression, bloom wherever you're planted. So that expression has special meaning in Krishna consciousness. Wherever you're planted, wherever you happen to be, wherever your karma has brought you, be there. You don't have to leave that place. Now, your karma may take you to other places. Your devotional service may take you to other places. But you don't have to be hankering to go to other places. You be satisfied where you are. And I'll share, I've been having the great honor and pleasure to be spending time during this visit with Anuradha Mataji and Deepak Prabhu. And we've been sharing some memories. But there was one that I almost got to and I never got to, so I'll share this now. Because it's appropriate to this idea of being blooming where you're planted. So I was in 1970, where I had joined and fully joined. I had encountered devotees in different times in different places prior to this, but I actually joined the temple in Detroit in early 1970. And so after about a year of service there, Chicago, New Vrindavan, and then back to Detroit, I became the head cook. And as I was explaining last night, I had a great affinity for the ocean. Maybe I am water sign or something, I don't know what it is, but something. I always had a great affinity. And when I grew up, our family had boats, and we spent a lot of time, summertime, traveling in the boats, going on different journeys. So I had this conditioning that I loved being on the water. And on this particular day, I was cooking, and I was feeling this great hankering to be on a boat and to be on the water in the ocean. And it was growing, and it seemed to be out of my control. My mind, which can be the greatest friend or the greatest enemy, was at that particular time acting as my greatest enemy. Shishi Radha Kalachandji ki jai, Shishi Gornitai ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. So there I was performing my duties in the kitchen, but the hankering was increasing and increasing, and I was meditating. Instead of meditating on satisfying the Lord's senses by preparing this nice meal for Him, I was meditating on how I can get out of here and get on a boat and be on the water. And this was just growing and growing. It was becoming so intense. I was, what can I do? It was going out of control. And then all of a sudden, it was as though Srila Prabhupada took control of my mind and reminded me that I'm on a boat. And this boat is traveling through the ocean of the material, the ignorance of the material world, going through the waves of the modes of material nature. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm on that boat. And I'm in the galley. So in a boat, a galley is the kitchen. I'm in the galley of the boat. Captain is Srila Prabhupada. And here I am. Now suddenly, like night and day, I became fully satisfied. So this is Krishna consciousness. This is how, in a second, one can become transferred to the Supreme. So Krishna gave a little glimpse. And so we should, once we get these little glimpses, and all of us have had such glimpses in one way or the other, because if we hadn't, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the determination to remain in Krishna consciousness, undergoing the austerities of the lifestyle of Krishna consciousness, if we hadn't have some param drishta, some higher taste. So we should, just as Lord Jagannath is hankering for the higher taste, He Himself is hankering for the higher taste of his sublime, loving affairs with the gopis. So the gopis are constantly pining in separation, praying for the reunion, praying to be in that place with Krishna. And here's the amazing thing, that as the gopis are crying, they're experiencing the highest pleasure of Vipralamba Seva, the highest, the tantamount, the most supreme experience that is available. And this is the experience that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought to us in this Kali Yuga and made available to us in this age of Kali Yuga. It is a horrible age in which to live. It is horrible. The degradation of this age is horrible, and it's getting worse and worse all the time. And yet it is the best age in which to live for a devotee. It is the most sublime. Why? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has made Krishna consciousness so easily accessible. He's brought Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra right into our midst. He's allowing us to participate in this transcendental pastime of Jagannath Rath Yatra. So as we are participating, let us be in that mood, in that transcendental mood. Let us be in that hankering mood of separation, where we are pulling the Lord into our hearts and into our home, His home, because our home is with Him, and His only satisfaction is to be with His loving devotees. So this is the great reciprocation that takes place. So I have no idea what the time is. What is the time now?
If you want to open up for questions and answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll stop here, and any questions that anyone may have.
Prabhu, thank you so much. What a wonderful realization. I was thinking, right now, where are we right now on Srila Prabhupada's boat? You know, where are we? So beautiful.
Right.
I was wondering, Prabhu, if you'd be willing. I was thinking, I'm also hankering, hearing more of Jagannath Rath Yatra Leela. But one thing that gives me even more joy than hearing Jagannath Rath Yatra Leela is hearing Jayananda Prabhu's Leela.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you might have any stories for us of Jayananda that you could share. And maybe there's some people here that might not know the importance of Jayananda Prabhu. If you wouldn't mind, if you think it's appropriate, of course.
Absolutely. Thank you, Prabhu. So in preface to speaking about Jayananda Prabhu, I was thinking to mention also that I am so happy to be in this temple right now, because first of all, I feel that Srila Prabhupada is very pleased to see that Krishna consciousness is so alive and well in this temple. I sense that there are so many nice, very sincere devotees, and Srila Prabhupada simply wanted us to maintain whatever He's given us. And simply by maintaining, automatically everything will grow and everything will evolve. And I see that everything seems to be being maintained very nicely in this center. And I'm also feeling the presence of Tamal Krishna Maharaj in this temple. I had a very, very, very close relationship with Tamal Krishna Maharaj because I was in Mumbai for 10 years, all through the 70s, from 72 until late 81, 9.5 years. And there's a period of time when we were undergoing a great struggle, great legal struggles in finalizing the acquisition of the property where we were living. And there were many, many, many attempts to get us out of that property and to destroy what Srila Prabhupada had created there. Many, many attempts. So I was in the very cortex, in the very midst of witnessing all of that and experiencing all of that. And whenever there was a severe crisis in the world, Srila Prabhupada would send Tamal Krishna Maharaj to help out the situation. So he came and spent considerable amount of time, and I was able for some time to become sort of his right-hand man. And it was really a great honor. Many devotees were afraid of Tamal Krishna Maharaj because he was so heavy. But I really relished his association, and he was very affectionate towards me. Sometimes we would go into secluded places and chant japa together. And so he gave me a lot of mercy. So I feel also his presence here. So, Jayananda Prabhu, because I was in India for all those years, and although I was in San Francisco when Jayananda Prabhu was there, my connection with the temple and with the devotees was very, it didn't go into a very deep level. I visited the temple several times. I met and talked with devotees 2 or 3 times, and that was all during my time in San Francisco. And I think that when the first Rath Yatra was taking place in San Francisco, I was actually based in San Francisco, but I was doing a lot of traveling. And I'm sure that during that particular time, when Jayananda Prabhu built that first chariot, went down Golden Gate Park, I wasn't present. However, in 1970, I believe it was early 1977, I came from India to California. And I believe, yes, that was the time that I had brought a person who I cultivated a relationship with. She was a very important figure in the film industry in Bombay. Her name is Lata Mangeshkar. And so I had invited her to come to Los Angeles and give a concert, and it was a fundraising concert. And so she came along with 17 musicians and her brother and her sister-in-law, their whole family, and Rameshwar Maharaj at the time, who was in charge of the temple, he provided all the facility for all these musicians, and we had the concert, a full hall, very successful. So I was trying to keep all of these musicians, and especially Lata and her family, entertained during the period of almost 2 weeks that they were there in New Dwarka. And I was, one day I drove them down to Laguna Beach to the temple to visit. And it was during that particular day when Jayananda Prabhu, who had been suffering from cancer and had been trying different treatments, he had gone to Mexico, and he had just come back from Mexico. He was on his way to Los Angeles, and he came to Laguna Beach. And that's when I met him for the first time. And this was, I knew about Jayananda. Of course, we all knew about Jayananda, and then his history and how, dear he was to Srila Prabhupada, and what it was like in the early days of San Francisco, and how he was, when someone asked, what was observing Jayananda Prabhu and assumed that, his main service was emptying the garbage. He was the garbage man for the temple. And then he was quite surprised to discover that he was the temple president. And so I had a chance to drive Jayananda Prabhu to Laguna Beach. So that's about an hour's drive. And we had, I could ask him many questions, and he was very kind and very generous and sharing. But he was suffering from his cancer. And then when he got to New Dwarka, he was given a room. I was also very, very close with Mukunda Maharaj, who in turn was very, very close, obviously, with Jayananda Prabhu, because they were together serving Srila Prabhupada. Mukunda Maharaj had been the one who had started the temple in San Francisco, where Jayananda joined. And so I would go almost daily with Mukunda Maharaj to Jayananda's room, and I would spend time, and I would see how in his suffering condition, where he had cancer throughout his body. And it was just a matter of days or weeks of remaining in this body. And he was spending all of his time designing the next Rath Yatra cart, lying in his bed with a board and papers designing, and then the devotees who were building the chariot were coming back and forth, taking instructions from him. And then outside of his window, he could see when he could get out of his bed, which he would do occasionally, and into a wheelchair. This was within a few weeks he was in that condition. So I stayed, it was very unusual, I stayed for about 3 months in New Dwarka, although originally I was only going to be staying for a few weeks, for the concert, and I was going to go back. But there was a national emergency taking place in India at the time, and no foreigners could go into the country, so I was stuck for a period of time, which was Krishna's mercy, because I was able to have that association with Jayananda Prabhu and just relish his association. And I was in the temple at Mangalarti when, right after Mangalarti, a devotee came into the temple to announce his passing. And then immediately the pujaris ran up to his room with the garlands of the deities and honor him. So yeah, Jayananda Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada said he's a saint. He was our first anointed saint of ISKCON. And I hope the temple here has a nice smaller picture of Jayananda Prabhu, because somehow the picture that I have been carrying with me for the last 10 years disappeared in my last Rath Yatra. I think it was just misplaced, and it hasn't been located. So I always have Jayananda and his framed photograph right in the front. And it's a beautiful picture of Jayananda in front of the Rath Yatra cart in San Francisco. So I hope that maybe we can find a picture here that we can put. But that's the extent of my personal connection with Jayananda Prabhu. And today, as we honor the Lord, we honor Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. More important than that is that we honor Jayananda Prabhu. And we honor those devotees, who assisted Srila Prabhupada in establishing Rath Yatra. And we honor all the devotees who are participating in Rath Yatra, just as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself personally was honoring all the devotees who were dancing and singing in the Rath Yatra. And he was moving from one kirtan group to another, and they are all just jumping and going crazy and becoming so ecstatic in the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And those who had the eyes to see, they could see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was present simultaneously with all the different Sankirtan groups at times. And so let us, pray for that vision, that Krishna will give us that vision, that during this day of Rath Yatra we will hopefully not become distracted by all the noise that's going on around us. That we'll be totally focused in the noise of the holy name, the transcendental sound of the holy name, in honoring the Lord and bringing him to his favorite home of Vrindavan. Any other questions? Any other comments? So I think we'll finish up here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shri Rath Yatra Yatra ki jai.